Hello and welcome back. My name is Willem, and today I'll be undertaking the enduring task of making meaning of one of William Butler Yeats's poems, The Secret Rose. The poem was written in 1897 and is largely ambiguous in its meaning. It incorporates natural imagery with many puzzling symbols. It's a series of rhyming couplets written in iambic pentameter, and within its 32 lines, it lacks structure with no division into stanzas. However, upon further analysis, the poem makes reference to a specific part of W.B. Yeats's life, which we will investigate today. W.B. Yeats was one of the most influential poets of the 20th century. He was well known as a poet, playwright, mystic, essayist, and critic. Amongst his accomplishments, he founded the Irish Literary Theatre and received a Nobel Prize for Literature in 1923. Although he belonged to the Anglo-Irish minority that controlled the social, political, and economic climates of Ireland at the time, he regarded himself as fiercely Irish, and as a result, his most well-known works concern the Irish nationalist movement and incorporate Irish legends and heroes. As I discussed before, The Secret Rose is a largely ambiguous poem. However, greater meaning can be made if read in light of a specific part of Yeats's life. In particular, his esoteric spirituality. Yeats was born into a world of growing irreligion, and a path of traditional Christianity had been cut off for him due to his father's skepticism and entire rejection of Protestantism. In light of this, Yeats sought to find alternate paths to his own spirituality. This spiritual journey began in 1886 when he joined the London Lodge of Theosophists, a society dealing with mystical insights. In 1889, after diligent research into the lodge's beliefs, he was asked to leave the society. 1 year later, in 1890, Yeats joined the newly established Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn. This order was centered upon a blended philosophy combining elements of spiritualism, alchemy, Hermeticism, Gnosticism, and the occult. In particular, this order gets its origins from 15th century Germanic traditions of Rosicrucianism. Focused on the symbol of the rose, Rosicrucianism is a Hermetic Christian society using divine magic to gain access to purer truths and spiritual enlightenment. As such, the elements of Rosicrucianism were incorporated into a major part of the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn's philosophy. Yeats's exposure to these beliefs and practices continued through the majority of the rest of his life, as he devoted the next 32 years of his life to the study and practice of the philosophy of the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn. This, in turn, undoubtedly influenced his literary work, as evident in The Secret Rose. When read in light of this context, The Secret Rose reveals itself as an expression of the many elements regarding the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn, and therefore Yeats's unique spirituality. This is done through the use of Rosicrucianist symbolism, as well as allusions to Christianity and Irish mythology, which relate to the practices of theurgy, Gnosticism, and the occult, all of which were elements in the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn. But before we jump into that, let's first look at the poem itself. Far off, most secret and inviolate rose, enfold me in my hours of hours, where those who sought thee in the holy sepulchre or in the wine vat dwell beyond the stir and tumult of defeated dreams. And deep among pale eyelids, heavy with the sleep, men have named beauty. Thy great leaves enfold the ancient beards, the helms of ruby and gold of the crowned magi, and the king whose eyes saw the pierced hands and rude of elder rise, in druid vapour and make the torches dim, till vain frenzy awoke, and he died. And him who met fanned, walking among the flaming dew, by a grey shore where the wind never blew, and lost the world and Emma for a kiss, and him who drove the gods out of their lists. Until 100 morns had flowered red, feasted and wept the barrows of his dead. And the proud dreaming king who flung the crown and sorrow away, and calling bard and clown, dwelt among wine-stained wanderers in deep woods, and him who sold tillage and house and goods, and sought through lands and islands numberless years, until he found, with laughter and with tears, a woman of so shining loveliness, that men threshed corn at midnight by a tress, a little stolen tress. I too await the hour of thy great wind of love and hate. When shall the stars be blown about the sky, like sparks blown out of a smithy, and die? Surely thine hour has come, thy great wind blows, far off, most secret, and inviolate rose. The secret rose reveals itself as an expression of the many elements regarding the Hermetic order of the Golden Dawn, and therefore Yeats's unique spirituality. This is done through the use of Rosicrucianist symbolism, as well as allusions to Christianity and Irish mythology, which relate to the practices of theurgy, Gnosticism, and the occult, all of which were elements in the Hermetic order of the Golden Dawn. Rosicrucian symbolism is particularly important in the understanding of the secret rose as an expression of Yeats's faith. The symbol of the rose was used in the Rosicrucian tradition as the emblem or one of the most significant symbols in their philosophy. Appearing at the centre of a golden cross, it is said according to Rosicrucian tradition that the rose represents the Gnostic goddess Sophia, a divine feminine figure said to be the female face of God, and that the cross is the four elements of the human body crucified on an earthly plane. It is then therefore the understanding in Rosicrucianism that the rose as the divine feminine is the source of eternal beauty and spiritual fulfillment that embraces the temporal sufferings of the physical world. This is evident in the poem through the desire for the rose to embrace the speaker, as they state, "Enfold me in my hour of hours." This alludes to a saving power of the divine feminine amongst human suffering, in other words, their hour of hours. The rose as a divine feminine figure also appears in the poem in the description of a man finding a woman of so shining loveliness, and the rose being named as beauty by men. Yeats's understanding of the Rosicrucian tradition continues to be evident in the opening lines of the poem. He describes the rose as far off, most secret, and inviolate. Through this, the divine feminine is presented to be a spiritual journey to be undertaken by members of the Hermetic order of the Golden Dawn, suggested by this goal of perfect and inviolate spiritual nourishment and eternal beauty being distant and far off. Also significant is the secret nature of the rose, described both in the title of the poem and its opening line. Secrecy was of major importance to the Hermetic order of the Golden Dawn, not only in its philosophy, but also in its practice. The Rosicrucianist philosophy, being primarily Christian, had to defend itself from claims of heresy and blasphemy through the doctrines of the Fama and the Confessio. These doctrines of Rosicrucianism would then go on to be banned by Pope Paul V. This resulted in the Hermetic order of the Golden Dawn being one of the most secretive societies, with invitation to join given only by word of mouth, and harsh punishments to anyone who leaked the practices of the order. There is also evidence to suggest that the secrecy of the rose is based on the occultist nature of the Hermetic order of the Golden Dawn. With occult, the Latin term for secret or hidden, the society based their belief system on the discovery of hidden and secret truths. It can therefore be suggested that these hidden truths were to be found through the rose or the divine feminine. Overall, the rose as a symbol throughout the poem outlines the belief of Yeats that spiritual fulfillment and eternal beauty, free from the sufferings of the earth, is found through the divine feminine, and that spiritual fulfillment is a secret to be discovered through the secret practices of the Hermetic order of the Golden Dawn. In the same way, Yeats expresses the beliefs of the Hermetic order of the Golden Dawn in The Secret Rose through a number of allusions to Christianity and Irish mythology. Specifically, these allusions demonstrate beliefs such as theurgy and Gnosticism present within the order. In direct reference to the rose, Yeats depicts all which the rose's great leaves enfold. The ancient beards, the helms of ruby and gold of the crowned magi, and the king whose eyes saw the pierced hands and rude of elder rise, in druid vapour and make the torches dim, till vain frenzy awoke, and he died. And in him who met fanned, walking among flaming dew, by a grey shore where the wind never blew, and lost the world and Ema for a kiss. In this calling to the rose, allusion to Christianity is made through the king whose eyes saw the pierced hands, alluding to Jesus being the King of the Jews and his death on the cross through nails in his hands. This calling to divine Christian figures such as Jesus is suggestive of the inherent Christian nature of Rosicrucian belief, in addition to the Hermetic practice of theurgy. Theurgy was the practice of divine magic. This sought to discover divine consciousness through the alliances of divine spirits such as angels and gods. In the subsequent lines, the allusion to Irish mythological figures such as Druids, Ema, and Fan relate to Gnosticism, a particular religious experience not relating to theology or philosophy, but through myth. The Druids in the poem relate to the Irish fire festivals, a time when the gap between the other world and earth was closer, an ideal time for religious sacrifice, whilst the conflict between the otherworldly Fan and the earthly figures of Cuchulainn and his wife Ema are also depicted. The incorporation of these Irish mythological figures into the description of the embrace of the rose is significant in demonstrating that these myths are used in Yeats's spiritualism to undergo religious experience, as in the practice of Gnosticism. Hence, allusions to Christianity and Irish mythology are particularly significant in The Secret Rose, to reveal the elements of theurgy and Gnosticism within Yeats's spirituality. Overall, whilst The Secret Rose is a largely ambiguous poem upon first glance, a detailed look into Yeats's unique spirituality reveals that this poem is an expression of the many elements regarding the Hermetic order of the Golden Dawn, of which Yeats devoted a large portion of his life. The symbol of the rose and allusions to Christianity and Irish mythology depict the secretive nature of the order in reaching spiritual fulfillment and the eternal beauty through the divine feminine and the practices of theurgy, Gnosticism, the occult, and Rosicrucianism. Therefore, The Secret Rose is such an important poem in revealing a unique portion of Yeats's life and provided a perspective about the different types of spirituality that exist in the world.